I've never read a more impressive financial literacy book, going all the way back to probably Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
My main profession is investing, and the idea of compounding, it's the idea of small choices, especially with money, have a huge impact over time, but it requires two things. One, starting as early as possible, and two, being patient, because the power of compounding really builds itself over time.
I always refer to our company as like the all-inclusive resort of the publishing industry. You know, you go somewhere and like everything is taken care of, you know, like literally everything.
We're like, you've done all these books together. Why don't we embrace the who, not how? So we're like, let's find our who's.
In this case, we thought, A, this book has a much broader audience potential than my other books, and B, let's sort of do it right.
Today, we are joined by Scott and Victoria Kyle. Scott brings nearly 40 years of Wall Street expertise as a unicorn company co-founder and award-winning wealth manager, while Victoria is a TEDx speaker, entrepreneur, and venture capital leader who has built and sold multiple companies. Through the relatable story of the team protagonist Ophelia Fee Albright, their book empowers readers ages 14 to 25 with essential money skills, so from budgeting and investing to credit management and career planning, helping the next generation avoid financial pitfalls and build true wealth and freedom. Welcome, Scott and Victoria, to your author spotlight interview.
Thanks for having us, Michael. Pleasure to be here.
Now, first off, I want to just say I got your copy the other day, and I've never read a more impressive financial literacy book, going all the way back to probably Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I'm going to dive into this a little bit, but it gave me, I'm not sure if you guys have read The Go-Giver.
The fact that it reminds you of that is, other than the very other nice things that you said, that feels nice. Thank you.
How long ago did you decide that you wanted to write a book?
Actually, both my parents were authors, so I had on my bucket list from a pretty early age to write a book. Victoria and I, connected, and then my children got a bit older. They're now teenagers. I shared the idea with Victoria, and she embraced it with her love of financial literacy and educating. And then we spent the last couple of years putting it together, and here we are.
Did you have one of your kids like in mind as you were writing the book?
We together now have a child, Ophelia, who happens to be the name of the main character of the book. So really it's a combination of my children becoming teenagers, and then the inspiration from Ophelia, knowing that she's going to grow into a world with financial challenges and other challenges, and to have a resource for her as well one day, and then to have her namesake at least be a character in the book.
So I guess like as your kids were growing up, you realized like, hey, the education system is missing the content around financial literacy. So was that kind of like the inspiration for writing this type of book, or was it more from the angle of like, this is my background and expertise, I'm comfortable and confident writing about this topic?
Yeah, great question. Really a combination of things. So one was just both of our areas of both personal passion as well as professional interest and expertise. Two was in our own journey as a couple, we explored various aspects of life, including our views on money and finance, just to kind of get to know each other and to do our own planning as well. So it really forced us, or gave us an opportunity to think about how we viewed money. And then that combined with having teenagers that we were beginning to teach about money as well. All those things came together a couple of years ago in a confluence that led us to really pull the trigger and start the book.
I think I would add on that, my dad was a banker. I had, a lot of privilege growing up, but still didn't learn all of the, here's what you do with your money. They were just focused on saving and not all of the other components. I also did a lot with my alumni network and kids coming out of college, as well as working at various universities on their entrepreneurship programs, and just saw that as a big gap of people who are coming out of these great schools, great backgrounds, but really hadn't learned all of that. And that mirrored my own experience. And so as I've come through the years, and also Scott, talking to me about the emotional aspects of money and all of that kind of stuff. So I think it was a lot of things coming together. And at least for me, looking at the mistakes I've made, and hey, I had all of this access to things and there were still big gaps. So how can we help close that for other teens and young adults?
Yeah, I graduated with an MBA and 2 degrees in economics, and I couldn't balance a checkbook. So there was clearly a gap between education and practical life skills. So we're trying to fill that gap.
I want to go back a little bit more in time. So tell me about like what your story was before you signed up to work with us at selfpublishing.com. How did the book kind of fit into that chapter of your life?
Scott came out of writing two really amazing fictional stories with his daughter. I had met Chandler years ago, back when he lived in San Diego, and followed him on Facebook. And so we were like, you've done all these books together. Why don't we embrace the who, not how? So we're like, let's find our who's. And so we interviewed a number of people. I obviously thought of SPS.
In my 5 previous books, and while it was a great process, a fun journey, the reality is that once they hit the marketplace, really no one knew about them. And so in this case, we thought, this book has a much broader audience potential than my other books. And B, let's sort of do it right. And so because we're not experts in that process, we thought we'd partner with people who are experts. And it's been a great partnership and we've really enjoyed it. And indeed, we're highly confident that the book will get much, much more exposure than my previous books or the book would have gotten had we not partnered with self-publishing, and also some ancillary folks as well, like in the PR and marketing world.
Were there specific gaps in your knowledge that you were hoping for help with?
Having a single group to work with. Historically, you'd had an editor, a book designer. There were a number of different people. And so having that all pulled together was compelling. And I would argue we're also sort of never been more bandwidth constrained
Yes.
than we have been in the last year, even, 7-month child aside. Process of the, hey, let's look at the storylines and let's start, high up and then drill down in each of the editing pieces was helpful in our driving the book to what it is today.
Often you just don't know what you don't know. So if someone does something for a living, 8 hours a day, they're just going to invariably know things that you don't. Plus, as Victoria said, we have full-time other jobs, partnering with folks who can fill those knowledge gaps and then help us actually do the things that would take us more time to do than it would take them to do, is worth the price of gold for sure. And gold is doing very well these days.
I always refer to our company as like the all-inclusive resort of the publishing industry. You go somewhere and like everything is taken care of, like literally everything. And so that's honestly what we've tried to become is the all-inclusive resort, everything that you're going to need to write and publish a really successful book in one place. When we spoke on the phone a couple of weeks ago, you said one of the coolest parts about joining our program was being able to work with Brett and just having like a coach to kind of walk you through the entire process. So leaning more into just like the who element of this journey, what kind of support and resources was Brett able to give you?
He felt like our steady pair of hands. If we ever had any challenges, we just went back to him. He was full of information. He was very helpful and okay, these are the tasks you have to do now. Let's get that done. Okay, that's great. Here's the timeline. Here's, laying it out where we could really chunk it down into small things. And we had certain deadlines and then we would pass that. And then we'd go on to the next part, and helping us really schedule things. And we're both planners. So we like to have, when is this happening? What needs to happen? Can we move this? And sort of moving all the parts together, as well as, you want to have it ready by this time, you need to do the book design because the book design takes this long, and just really helping keep all those pieces on track.
Yeah, and then even though I had actually been a publisher back in the 90s, so that was my previous career, the reality is that the industry has changed so much and so quickly that even if we did have some level of expertise, you just can't replace someone who's up to date with the latest trends and technology and processes and so forth. So Brett really has that great overview. And as Victoria said, was really the captain to help manage the various components and pieces, whether it's the editor or the cover design, what have you. And he was always there and available to help.
Okay, I want to shift our direction a little bit. I want to dive a little bit more into the contents of your book because, as you know, I thought this was a fantastic book, a really amazing book, super easy to read. The lessons, the examples, the storyline, the questions that Fee is asking her parents, and I just overall thought it was a really good book. This reads like a fable, similar to The Go-Giver, as I mentioned before. It's one of my favorite books, but weaving in like essential financial lessons into an engaging narrative. So walk me through your decision to structure this as a story rather than a traditional like how-to finance book. And just talk about like what you believe readers will gain by learning through Fee's story that they might miss in a more conventional educational book.
both Victor and I are prolific readers. So, I've read The Richest Man in Babylon and The Latte Factor and others that sort of have these components of fable and or lessons within them. So we just thought it would be, we weren't sure, quite honestly. We were doing drafts and we were like getting feedback to say, like, is this something where we're striking the right chord? Is it too much text? Is it too much fable and not enough lessons? And so there were definitely iterations along the way. We think for the most part, it just keeps things interesting. It keeps things more authentic. It keeps things more relatable to the reader. Whereas if you're just looking at a chart and you have no context for that or something that you can relate to, like, hey, I just got a job and I can take what I'm doing in my real life and apply it to this concept of saving, budgeting, etc. So I think from a reader standpoint, they will simply, it'll stick a lot more than if it were purely text, even down to their names. And I thought the irony of having the one character who has challenges with money be called Cash, for example, just having fun with it.
And I just love like the progression of like the questions early on and how she's adapting for her first job and then getting a new job. So how does that change her finances and the budgeting structure and the 50-30-20 rule. It was incredible the way that you wrote this fable. Throughout the book, we watch Fee transform from financially uncertain to increasingly confident in managing her money. So was building financial confidence an intentional goal when you started writing, or did you discover this theme emerging as Fee's character developed?
We really wanted to show the contrast of decision making. So one of the underlying themes is small decisions have huge impacts over time. It won't seem like it, the idea of compounding, whether it's in your health or in your money, but little 1% decisions day after day after day really make a massive difference in the years to follow. And so we have several examples of that in the book. So by having multiple characters, these friends, Ophelia, the main character, her best friend Ollie, and then their friend Cash, each make slightly different decisions along the way and based on different inputs and influences in their life, then carrying that forward in the years to come, you could really project out and have someone see in their life today what their choices may look like 5, 10, 20 years from now. So yeah, it was quite intentional to have those contrasting points of view, but have them be realistic as well. We didn't want to hammer the reader over the head with it. We wanted to be authentic and realistic, and also create some fun conflict in the moment between those characters as each one sort of holding on to their own position about money, but then realizing, wait, maybe the other person has a point, including Ophelia, who's sort of questioning at times what her mother and others are teaching her, and then ultimately finding what works for her.
So you've crafted incredibly intentional characters, and Cash in particular stood out for me. So he comes from a household with commission-based variable income where his parents embrace a live-in-the-moment philosophy, leading to short-term spending at the expense of long-term strategy. So this creates a psychological ceiling for Cash, making him believe that higher education and success are simply out of reach for someone like him. So was it crucial for you to include a character like Cash in a book about financial literacy? And what do you hope readers, especially those who see themselves in Cash, take away from your story?
Yeah, I think we tried with all the characters to have them be different in contrast with one another. I think the struggle was, there's so many iterations of different people and different ways that they're coming at things. And so, an employee versus an entrepreneur look at things differently because the velocity of money is different, and there's different abilities. I've been both, and now I'm highly incentivized on a commission structure myself, and so it's just looking at different perspectives. But yeah, we definitely wanted the characters to be different and illustrate different views, and so Cash ended up being kind of the opposite. Of if you look at Fee and then Ollie, how Ollie's got the entrepreneur side, and then Fee has been more of an employee. So just to catch all of the different archetypes. Obviously, we can capture all though.
It's also a trap that's surprisingly common, where it's sort of the Instagram world where whether it's people posting vacations or their latest meal, there's sort of this idea of, hey, I have to present out to the world that everything's perfect. I have to keep up with the Joneses, as it were. And so that's how Cash's parents are, and that's how Cash has been modeled. They're modeling that for him. So he falls in that trap as well, this idea of, hey, I just need something today and I won't worry about tomorrow, that'll take care of itself. He learns the hard way that it won't take care of itself, that you do need to have a balance between enjoying today but preparing for tomorrow. And there are ways of doing it such that you can really, in some respects, have your cake and eat it too if you're smart about your choices and intentional about your choices. So it's not a live a miserly life today and then once you're 65, then you can start enjoying life. There really is a balance. We try to emphasize that as well, by, again, setting up things which are automated and systems so that you don't even see the money that you're setting aside for your future self. And the idea of the 50-30-20 is that some of it's for fun, and some of it's for your needs, and some of it's for the future.
One, and I think too, social media, right, has lots of impact. And so teens growing up and seeing influencers that, are supposedly flying private or whatever else they're doing all the time, or, their new bags or shoes or whatever that they've borrowed and returning, and they think that's what they need to do and they need to keep up with everybody because that's what all the cool kids are doing. It's so easy to fall into that trap. I know when I was in New York, my colleagues had a certain red-soled pair of shoes that they really liked to wear. And so that was the thing that everybody did. But, when you're early 20s, you don't need to be buying wildly expensive shoes. And so there's just that balance of, what does it look like? And, maybe you have one really nice pair of shoes, but you're using the rest of your money to save for future. So trying to show that among the characters.
Was there a specific like chapter or topic within the book that you're like most passionate about, maybe you're most excited about to write?
Yeah, I'll take that one first. So, my main profession is investing, and the idea of compounding, which has been a theme in the other books I've written as well, the investing books. It's the idea of the small choices, especially with money, have a huge impact over time, but it requires two things. One, starting as early as possible, and two, being patient, because the power of compounding really builds itself over time. There's a great saying, which is, when's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago, the next best time is today. So even if you didn't start early, there's still a lot of time to let the power of compounding do its thing. So that was probably the one that I enjoyed working on the most, and feel like that can have a huge impact on people.
For me, there's all of the, saving, right? And that's how I grew up, is save, save, save. But you can only save so much depending on what you're making. And so the part that was most exciting for me, both from a personal perspective, I'm on my 5th or 6th career, was the idea of, how do you find the right role for you? How do you increase your income, whether it's through a job, through a business, and then being in executive search now and focusing on talent and the workforce, preparing people to meet their potential and find a job that is both personally and financially rewarding is hugely exciting for me. Different people want different jobs with different incomes, but as long as you're finding one that fits your lifestyle and the vision that you have, being able to make that happen, I think is really important.
So I know that you're up to 41 reviews on Amazon so far, which is incredible coming into like a couple weeks before your official launch date. So how did you get up to this point, and kind of what are your plans and goals over the next couple of weeks?
Yeah, so the paperback became available a couple of weeks ago, and then once it was, we reached out to friends and family, and asked them to purchase a book and write a review, which they have, and that will continue over the next couple of weeks. In the meantime, behind the scenes, we've been working with a couple of marketing PR firms to plant the seeds for a big marketing PR push, which will begin in early November, coinciding with the ebook coming out on November 4th. It's very evergreen in nature. It's timeless in nature. So the content will be as applicable a year from now as it is today. And then it's also really the starting point for us for a financial literacy education platform. So we plan on writing subsequent books, as well as adding to the website, which has other tools and resources on it as well. So it's really, this isn't a one and done where we put it on Amazon and forget about it and move on. It's something for which we have a lifelong passion, and we'll carry it forward in various forms.
Scott has dug deep into his Rolodex, and there's like teachers of the kids that are writing reviews, and someone who met like 5 years ago that has written a review.
And my dental hygienist that I met 3 weeks ago also just wrote a review. So well, when you believe in the content, in all seriousness, like I view it as a gift to make someone aware of it. I don't feel like I'm selling them anything.
That's fantastic. So it sounds like there's a lot of like grassroots, what we call hand-to-hand combat. You're going out and you're getting in the trenches with your follow-ups and your text messages and your calls, and keeping a couple copies in the car maybe when you're going to the dentist. Hopefully you can get a couple more reviews there.
He actually went old school and got, these are actually really nice cardstock, but flyers to hand out.
Can you do a close-up? What's all on it?
For his style than mine.
So you wrote the book. It sounds like there's a couple other book ideas that you might be exploring, and some online courses.
I am interested in education in general, whether it's financial literacy or other areas, entrepreneurship, for example. So I mentioned I've been working with SDSU, and I'm very involved in the startup community here in San Diego. There's just so much to teach people and help them reach their potential. And the next book is similar, but around entrepreneurship, growing your business, things like that are likely combining that story content again, but directed to teens and young adults. Things like life skills, really leaning in harder to this idea of, the 1% edge that can be applied to anything, whether it's sport, this idea of self-development and how can we be our best selves, and, what are the tools that we can use, and what can we learn? And so we're very focused on that, and think that there's a lot we have to share with others on, the lessons that we learned. And so we could see building that out, and then also being able to put that online, because not everybody reads books these days, right? I know with child rearing, good or bad, I learn a lot on Instagram, and I have to kind of push away a lot of the crap. But there's like short, 2-minute videos that I'm like, oh, that's really interesting. I learned something new. And so kind of this mix of, what's easily accessible, maybe some short form that hits another audience that books may not.
Every year at Author Advantage Live, we do a book cover award ceremony, and kind of go through like what makes a really good book cover. And I think you guys have just nailed this. The simplicity of colors. Like I always recommend 3 colors or less. You got yellow, white, and green. Obviously a little black in there as well, but just it's very simple. The title, subtitle are taking up the top 2/3 of the book. Very easy to understand, simple. So just like from a branding perspective, and just what you did with your book cover, like I just thought it was incredibly good. The back cover is fantastic. Overall, one of the best written books that I've read in a long time, and I mean that like genuinely. The topic is fantastic. Again, it's something I really relate to, and I just think from a design perspective, you guys did an incredible job.
Well, your designers did that, right? So
it's a collaboration, and you should take every ounce of credit you can.
A good team effort. We provided some direction, and then they ran with it. So it was a good team effort.
Well, and we did apply for a number of the industry reviews, and I forget exactly what we got on the cover, but we got all A's, which the perfectionist in me likes.
Well, final question for you. This has been a really fun conversation. I really appreciate your time. Where can listeners go if they want to keep up with you, your book, and your business?
So a few places to find us. One, both of us are prolific LinkedIn users. So if you want to find us personally, Scott Kyle, and then Victoria Lakers. I think I have Kyle on LinkedIn. We have Instagram, which is financialfacts101.101. And then our website, which is yourfactsoflife.com, deliberately kept vague for these future books that we will write. On Amazon, if you search The Other Birds and Bees with Scott Kyle, it should come up for you.
Highly recommend any listeners here, if you have any teens or even as an adult, and you want to find a book on really good financial literacy written in a way that's digestible, relatable, clear. Highly recommend The Other Birds and Bees, The Financial Facts of Life, Money Secrets No One Ever Taught You. Thank you to both of you for your time today. This has been a really fun conversation. I can't wait to share this with our audience and help you promote your book as much as possible before the official launch on November 4th, 2025. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks, Michael. I appreciate it. It's been a pleasure.